Hi everyone, and welcome to the Life with Goldie podcast, where we travel around the world talking to all the Trailblazer Golden Hoodies and exploring their journeys. I'm your host, Mia Pacey, also a Golden Hoodie recipient, but today we're here with David Nava. Hey David.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Mia.
No worries, it's really amazing to be traveling across the world today. Today we're on the US of A side of the world, so I'm nice and cold and you're going into summer, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We're about an hour south of Boston, and it was nice out. It was about 70 degrees or so today.
Amazing. Yeah, no, it's getting to the chilly side down here in Australia. But so we're talking about your Golden Hoodie, which you only got this year, so 2022.
Yep.
And I know that you've got a very unique journey into the ecosystem. A couple of us have heard your story, but I was wondering if you could take our listeners through how Salesforce and Trailhead came into your life. Like, how did you discover it and get onto this path towards Golden Hoodie?
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up. It's more than happy to share my story. So I think both Trailhead and Salesforce really came into my life suddenly and pretty unexpectedly, like many of life's great surprises. I was a year out from retiring from the military at the time, and I had spent the previous 4 years preparing for this career in project management. But my heart just really wasn't in it, right? So I had the degrees and certifications, I had the MBA, and I had a project management professional certification and a Lean Six Sigma black belt and certified Scrum Master, all the trappings of project management success. But at the end of the day, I couldn't muster the enthusiasm to actually proceed any further with finding a role. There was this mental block there. So at the time, I was single dad. I was raising my two youngest sons by myself, and I was terrified that I'd be unable to find a career, and that I'd be jeopardizing our livelihood. So there was a tremendous amount of pressure for me, not only to find a job, but to find the right job and to be successful. And so right at that time, where I was kind of freaking out, enter Salesforce. And so I was, kind of hanging out one day in a LinkedIn group for veterans and allies. And one of my mentors was like, hey, you should check out Salesforce. And I was like, I'm not really interested. Like, I've never heard of it, but, from the name, the thought of selling and quotas and dealing with objections on a daily basis, that's great, but it doesn't hold any interest for me. And he's like, no, Dave, check it out. They're a technology company. They do other stuff too. And so I was like, all right, I will look it up. So he connected me with a Trailblazer who suggested that I look into a free training platform, which you may have heard of, called Trailhead. And so I did, after all, free's free, so why not?
I know.
So I looked into it, and I, at the time, I really had no idea that simple decision would forever change the course of my professional life, but it absolutely did. It's weird how little twists of fate can dramatically change your path. And that was one of those for me. So, I created an account and I figured, all right, this badge thing, I'll earn a badge or two. The concept seems kind of fun, gamification, it's original. And in the process, we'll see what Salesforce is all about. And in doing so, again, unexpectedly, I discovered that it was everything I had been looking for the previous 4 years. It just all clicked. And so whereas before I had this block, now I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But the whole thing is like, I'd never seen myself in a tech role because, let's face it, I had no previous tech experience. I did not have a tech-related degree, and I didn't know how to code. And, frankly, I still don't. My triggers and Apex classes are the stuff of coding nightmares, but that's okay. And so what I love is that Trailhead and Salesforce, the Salesforce, no-code, low-code platform, it democratizes the learning process. And so it breaks down those barriers to entry, which makes this type of career available to virtually everyone. And so what immediately became clear to me is that in this space, work ethic and drive matter more than degrees. And with the right attitude, like, anyone can overcome a work experience gap. So like I said, I doubled down. I was all in. I fully committed. And I put all my free time into learning the platform while I was finishing my Navy career. So that's kind of my story.
That's amazing. I mean, it's such a nice thing to know that there's something coming to an end. I need to find a new career. Let's go out there and see what's around. And thank goodness for that person that mentioned Salesforce. I mean, you wouldn't have seen, I guess, that entry to barrier. Like it's out there, we know, but you're right. Tech career probably wasn't on high on your list, I'm presuming, in the project management space.
No, it wasn't. It was totally, I got lucky and I was in LinkedIn quite a bit just looking, and it was that chance encounter. And so, because it was a chance encounter, I want to help make that more of a more likely encounter to occur. And that's what led into all my later mentoring and my current mentoring, to be able to spread that message so that people don't discover by accident, right? They know it's there. They go, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to look into it. Here's the resources. I don't have to go looking for them, right? I don't want them to stumble like I did.
And that's what the Trailblazer community is all about, right? It's giving back, giving the people those opportunities, having that mentorship program available. I know that's something that Trailhead do themselves, but also in the community. Even if you find someone that you feel like could benefit from just a little bit of guidance, I mean, that's what it's about. It's giving that ability to then breach that gap worldwide even, and help someone out. I know that you've done a lot in the Trailblazer community so far, but can we go back to what it feels like to be a Golden Hoodie? So some of us have been able to be at events where Golden Hoodies have been presented. Some of us have seen them online, but take us through what, from your perspective, was it like to be presented this amazing shiny object on stage? Take us through that moment.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm still kind of coming to terms and like pinching myself, because it doesn't seem real. Like before I go into it, if you can imagine like the best experience you could ever imagine professionally happening to you, it was that for me. And so so Golden Hoodies, if you're not aware, and I'm speaking to the broader audience now, they can be awarded to anyone in the ecosystem. It's customers, it's partners, but it's also Salesforce employees, which I actually didn't know until it happened to me. And so every year we do a company kickoff. And this year it was in New York City. And mine was presented at company kickoff last February with two other amazingly talented Trailblazers, Vanessa, and I'm going to mispronounce her last name, Gentile, and Nell Pei. And they put together amazing programs and were justly recognized with me at the same time. So to take you back to that moment, it actually starts about a month before, in January. And so, I'm at my computer and I receive an invite to a meeting to discuss an award that I had won. And then the invite was really vague. It just said, Trailblazer Award. I'm like, all right, I have no idea what that is. So, I put it in my calendar and kind of forgot about it until I think it was a Friday. So I get to the meeting. It's virtual, obviously. And at the meeting, it's a group of folks. And they're like, hey, have you heard of the Golden Hoodie Award? And I was like, well, yeah. And I was floored, right? Because I didn't know I could earn that. I had figured wrongly that when I got hired, like I was out of the running, right? Because if you're an employee, you can't be an MVP, right? Yeah. I figured it was the same thing, but it's not. And so, the unbelievable, things would continue to happen in this story. The next thing was like, all right, cool. Yeah, you've won it. So congrats. And again, I was still picking my jaw up off the floor. And they're like, we're going to send a film production crew to your house, and we're going to capture your story in an all-day video shoot. So that was like, it was pretty surreal, but a really cool experience. So they did. They sent a full-on video crew. They came up to my office, and you can see it behind me. It's not a giant office. It's decent size, but like they had the whole thing filled with boom mics and special lighting and special shades for the lighting and video cameras and backup cameras. There's like 5 people. And there was this little cone that I was sitting in, like kind of smashed in where I could give my interview. And they spent the whole day with me. They did, in my office downstairs. My wife was in it. My dog was in it. So really cool video. And you can actually see it. So fast forward a month, right? And they flew me and 5,000 of my colleagues to New York City for the kickoff. And obviously, thanks to Safety Cloud, we were able to meet safely despite the threat of COVID. So it was really well organized. We had testing kits. It was all, it's fantastic. And so we get there and we're informed that you're going to be receiving your Golden Hoodies on the main stage from co-CEOs Marc Benioff and Brett Taylor, which again, like it keeps getting better. And we're going to broadcast it to all 70 plus thousand of our colleagues So at that one, I was like, ooh, like I get really nervous. But I was like, all right. And then they're like, and we'd like you to say a few words if you want to. No pressure. So
boy.
we're going to hand you the mic, and you can have, have a chat with the audience about what, what's impactful about this experience. So they bring you backstage, and there's a hair and makeup, no kidding, hair and makeup set up. And obviously, like, mine didn't take too long. So I was in and out.
They're like, yes, done.
Vanessa and Nell took a bit longer because, they have hair. And so, like, at the scheduled time, they bring up our Trailblazer story video because Nell and Vanessa had also had their videos done, and it was in this collage. And so they projected on these big screens, and the lights dim, and everyone's, getting to listen to how we earned our hoodies and what our stories was, which is really cool. And then after the video, we all come out on stage, and so there's 5,000 of our colleagues, clapping their hands, and really, really cool and humbling experience. And for my award presentation, like, Marc Benioff zipped up my hoodie. So I'm like standing there, just like, this is not happening.
Yeah.
But I'm a bit of a character. So, like, I had some fun with it. And when he got done zipping it up, I raised my hands in the peace sign, and Mark got into the act, and he grabbed my arms, and we're doing, like this to the crowd. And everyone's like, yeah. So lots of fun. And you can actually see a picture of that on my LinkedIn profile. It was so epic that I posted it. It will forever be my LinkedIn profile header. Yeah, it was super cool. And so then we got to speak about our programs, and I'm the first speaker, of course, the one that's like both of Vanessa and Nell were like, yeah, they were I guess nervous, but like they were totally fine. I was the one that was like pacing back and forth and sweaty. So of course I'm the first speaker. And I was super nervous. So I'm like, I have this wonderful idea. I'll make it even worse, and I'll break the tension by telling a joke, which I don't do. Like, I never tell jokes. I'm the worst joke teller. But I was like, oh, why not? Go for broke, right? So, I give my remarks, and I'm like, hey, everyone, just want to let you know that they were essentially revolved around giving back to the professional community by mentoring other trailblazers. And I opened with my joke. It didn't fall flat, which was actually a first. So that was great. And so I guess long way of answering your question, but like how I felt like before and during, it was this mixture of excitement and pure anxiety, like pure unadulterated fear.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, like, I'm sitting in the crowd, like, I'm just kind of like, what just happened? Right. So I had all this relief that I hadn't fallen on the stairs, and that I hadn't, like, bombed my joke. But I think, looking back on it, and I'm glad you asked that question, because more than that, really what I was feeling was this profound sense of gratitude that I had the privilege, and so does everyone that works at Salesforce, of working for a company whose values and culture promote this environment where giving back and helping others is seen as an integral part of being a successful professional, not a hobby, not a distraction, right? And that's true. Yeah, it's encouraged. And that's true of, I would offer probably the majority of the companies in the ecosystem, right? It's what we do. And so, more than anything else, really, the fact that we're encouraged to make a difference in the lives of others is what sets Salesforce apart from other tech companies. And that is what keeps me showing up for work each day, energized and motivated. So just an amazing experience.
That sounds like a very unique experience from the other Golden Hoodie. So I'm so thankful that you're able to tell us that and take us through what it actually most likely was the longest form of anxiety of any of us, because you got told so far out from your presentation. Yeah. So that was a lengthy time of anxiety. I know I would be a complete nervous wreck with like jelly legs, and if Marc Benioff was presenting it, you got the top of the top experience. So well deserved too. I mean, you give back to a lot of us in the community. You do a lot. You've got a YouTube channel, and you've got a few other things that you do for the Trailblazer community. But on the flip side, when we all kind of start our journey, we really rely on those people out there. We really rely on the community. What did the community, or how important is the community for you? Did you experience it when you're coming through?
Yeah, I did. I mean, so like, and I'll put it very simply, like, I could not have made the leap from the military to a career in cloud computing without the Trailblazer community, pure and simple. Like I supplied the passion and the hard work, and they went out of their way to help me achieve my career goals, supporting me every step of the way. And they still do. So, I mean, literally, I love the Trailblazer community, and I'll get back to it the rest of my career. And I'll give you just a really quick story, which kind of highlights just how neat it is, right? How one of a kind. So I'm still in the military, and I was working for a nonprofit as their Salesforce administrator. And so, as is typical or as is common, like I get to the job like first day, and my understanding was I was going to be the junior administrator, and I'd be under the tutelage of a senior administrator. And that lasted for like 3 or 4 days, right? Because as soon as I got there, basically the other guy was like, "Hey, you got it, hit me up if you have any questions." And he went on to do other things. And I was like, oh no. Like,
boy.
I've been doing this for 3 months in the I've been earning Trailhead badges for 3 months. I am not an admin. I was hoping to learn how to be one. So it was learned like by fire hose effect, and ultimately I did an okay job. And I was awarded, with a Volunteer of the Year award. But like prior to that, I needed help. And that's one of the great things about the community. So here I am, it's like 9 o'clock at night, right? And I'm trying to fix this AppExchange app that creates forms because the form's broken, and our constituents can't fill it out to take part in our programs. And so I'm like, it's this obscure thing, and I cannot figure it out. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to throw the Hail Mary pass. I will go in the answers community, and it's 9 o'clock at night. No one's going to answer. I might get an answer in a couple days. And I put this really obscure AppExchange, package question in there. And no kidding, 15 minutes later, someone's on, and we're chatting back and forth in near real time in this chatter group, and he solves it for me super quickly. Wow. And I, so obviously I'm floored, but the cool thing is that like fast forward 6 months, and I got to hear him speak at a world tour. And then I went up to him afterwards. I was like, "Hey, you're the guy that helped me out with this AppExchange pack." He's like, "I remember you. That's awesome." So we had this connection, and he totally remembered who I was. And so it's those interactions that you have in the community that are authentic and completely supportive that you just don't get anywhere else. It's such an amazingly unique entity, our community.
Yeah. I mean, that's an amazing story. I've heard something similar from other people, but to be able to then full circle it and meet a person at a world tour event is crazy, right? Where you have friends across the world. And I guess that's what Dreamforce does for a lot of people too, is brings them together when they've been communicating virtually. And that's why it's this crazy, exciting time to be able to meet other trailblazers in the community. So, I mean, it's an amazing, I say it all the time, but it's an amazing community to be part of because of that giving back, learning, and then maybe later on that person will teach you something because you've taught them something, and then they've gone on to be successful. And that's not something to be afraid of because they're not going to be taking your jobs or like taking your clients, because it's such a huge ecosystem and such an equal one. Everyone's welcome, and it just has to be part of. I just really like that about it.
There are enough business problems to go around, so there's plenty of work for everyone.
And like we say, when someone says, "What is Salesforce?" I'm like, every business could use Salesforce. Like every single one of them. There's a use case out there. And so that's the answer when I say it. What is Salesforce? So I'm like, your business could use it. Trust me. And there's a trailblazer out there that can be your admin, your platform lead, your dev. There's so many different roles that people can get into.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to walk through, I guess, when you were starting out and people gave you advice and helped you along the way, do you have any kind of advice for those people in a very similar circumstance?
Yeah. And so I have had a lot of conversations with a lot of folks on that topic, and I've been able to kind of distill my thoughts, and I want to offer 4 pieces of advice. So number 1, and this is not necessarily any priority order, just kind of what popped into my head. So number 1 is join a community group. No shocker there, right? We've been talking about it all evening. So speaking for myself, and as I mentioned earlier, I didn't get to where I am today by myself. It literally took a village. I've been able to be, it did, successful.
Yeah,
I've been able to be successful.
I've heard that before. An entire village, guys. Come on, let's everyone on board.
It was a big village too. It wasn't a small village. So, like,
city.
Literally
a city now.
Yeah, it was a city, right? Hundreds of people I've literally interacted with hundreds of people that have helped me along this journey. No joke. And so, like if I had to sum it up, I would say this community is the lifeblood of the ecosystem. It's our most powerful asset. And not only for advancing our own professional development, but to your point, helping others do the same, right? And it's that willingness to give back and support one another that creates those relationships we've been talking about that binds us together as a community. And so thankfully, there's hundreds of community groups on the Trailhead website for trailblazers to learn, connect, and network. So if I could offer a piece of advice on joining a community group, it would be, I would encourage everyone to begin attending community events, including Salesforce Saturdays. And so pick one or two groups that really resonate with you and attend them regularly. For me, it's made a huge difference in my professional life. And I have no doubt that if you can do this, it'll be impactful in yours as well. So that's number one. I would say number two, and I'll foot stomp this, even though you won't hear it because it's virtual. I'm doing it now. Create applications. So one of the questions I'm frequently asked by new entrants to the ecosystem is, hey, Dave, and this is a great question, how do I get work experience when no one's going to hire me without work experience? It's the chicken before the egg problem. And it is a significant barrier to entry for those who want to enter the ecosystem. And so, I tell people, hey, if you're unable to find volunteer experience, if you can't find an internship, right? If part-time project work has eluded you, and you've found no way to build your portfolio of work experience, there is a universally available option to show that you have the Salesforce technical skills to solve real-world business problems. And it is build apps. Anyone can spin up a free developer org and begin building purposeful applications with configuration or code, whatever your jam is, to enhance your technical skills. It helps you prepare for exams. And you can actually leverage that during interviews to show you have the skills to perform well in that role. And so, personal story, it helped me tremendously during my transition. So early in my transition, I built several applications to take the place of the ones on my phone, and I still use them this day. So I manage my workouts, my daily tasks, my finances. And then if you fast forward to my interview with Salesforce, I was in the ecosystem for about a year, and Salesforce is like, do you want to interview? And I was like, that's a silly question. Of course I do. But like, I got done with the interview and they're like, yeah, that was fantastic. And some folks have heard the story before. You didn't get the job. That's like,
oh my goodness.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. But like what I had done during the interview is I pulled out my dev org and I had said, hey, check it out. Like we have some time at the end. Here's what I build. Here's my task, a task app. Here's my workout app. Check this out. And so what they let me know is they're like, hey, Dave, you don't have enough experience for the role that we hired you, that we were going to hire you for, but we're so impressed with your passion for the platform and your dev org is amazing. And we can tell you love Salesforce. We're going to bring you in a couple steps lower if you're okay with that. And so, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely okay with it. And so that was the linchpin that got me in. Had I not, talked about it, had I not pulled out my dev org, had I not spent that time building apps, I don't know I'd be here today, either working at Salesforce or wearing a Golden Hoodie for that matter. So do that, right? It's totally free and it only requires an investment of time and your creativity.
Done that one. I've heard that a lot. And I've got one also. I actually built one for my husband to take to work to manage his shifts. So it's just something also fun, everyone. So definitely echo that one.
Yeah, to your point, there's a use case for everyone, right? So you should have no problems building an app. Pick out your iPhone or your Android, anything on there that you use every day, try to build it in Salesforce. And if you fail, that is an excellent learning experience. And I bet you'll be smarter at the end than you were at the start. So it's a win-win. All right, so number 3, build your brand. Build your brand. It is essential to thriving in a community-focused ecosystem. Every job interview I've gotten, every speaking engagement, including this one, every single opportunity can be traced back to my continuous efforts to build my brand, right? If you think about it, you can have all the certifications in Salesforce's inventory. You can have all the badges. You can have a ton of great work experience. But if no one knows about it because you aren't promoting yourself, they can't offer you a job or a pay raise or an opportunity to give back to the community based on your experiences. And that's why it's essential to create your unique brand and market it using social media. And so I can hear people out there, they're like, Dave, it's a skill set I'm unfamiliar with, or I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't like to brag, like we were talking about before the call. That's totally normal. I get it, right? I would encourage people, hey, don't think of it as bragging. Think of it as communicating your value to the broader professional community. And if you're looking for resources, go to my YouTube channel. I've got 35 videos on branding and more on the way. So I'll release some more here next month. So that is Build Your Brand. I can't stress it enough. It ties that whole professional package together and delivers it at people's feet to say, here's the value I can add to your organization. Hire me, promote me. And the last one, right? And again, this is not going to be a shocker. Give back. It's the last one I'm going to mention, but it is the most important. Make time to give back. It's the single most important decision I've made in my career. And I found that it's one of the best ways is to teach, right? I've experienced it over and over again during mentoring sessions. And I would say that additionally, right, these mentoring others has enabled me to build these long-lasting relationships and friendships with so many people in the ecosystem, which above and beyond the learning and helping them, that's the most rewarding aspect is building those connections. And so, again, like I can hear, in the back of the room, people are like, hey, I don't know that I have enough experience to be able to give back. I have nothing to offer as a mentor. I've only been in the ecosystem for a month, whatever. I disagree, right? Whether you have 10 years of experience or 10 days, you absolutely have something to offer to trailblazers who are looking for mentorship and support. You do not have to be an expert to be qualified to speak to someone about your experiences and how they influenced your career choices, right? That's a valuable perspective, and there's numerous mentees that would love to hear it. So, my recommendation is make time in your weekly schedule to help others be successful in their careers. And in doing so, no doubt that you'll be even more successful in yours. So those are my 4 tips.
Yeah, I love that one as well, because it doesn't even have to be a formalized kind of process of mentorship where you're like, I don't know of a program in my area or district that it offers that. It's not even, that doesn't have to be so formalized. It could be you find someone on Twitter or LinkedIn that you guys jam and you have a great relationship, and then you start to help that person. It doesn't have to be, hey, I'm your mentor. It could just be that relationship that you see yourself giving back to that person. You're right. After 10 days, it could be, oh, in my previous experience, I'm really good at communicating. So let me give back and teach people how to communicate better with the executives or key stakeholders in their org. I agree with that. That's a really good point. I hadn't actually thought of it from that angle either, that it's not about your experience in Salesforce. It could be any experience that you have. Yeah,
and that exactly
10 days in is definitely something that you could leverage.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been in the ecosystem for 10 days and it's been a really hard 10 days and you're like, gosh, how do I succeed? People want to know about that are at day 1, right? Help me bridge the gap between day 1 and day 10. There's learning there. There's value there. So everyone's got something to offer, and I would encourage everyone to give back. And you're totally right. It can be as ad hoc as you want it to be. Pick up the phone, LinkedIn message. That's how mine started out. And then over time, I made it more formalized and I provided more structure. But initially it was just like, yeah, I'll chat with you. Pick up, let's talk.
Yeah, and people think it's just giving back, and yeah, it is probably just giving back, but as you get those relationships and they grow a bit more and you start to give back to the same person, or you get some knowledge from the same person a few times, that's ultimately mentoring. Like you're getting relationships and you're getting advice from someone else in the ecosystem. So that's a good one. And also 10 days in, that could have been 10 more badges because you were doing 100 days of Trailhead. I mean, that's also into it.
Absolutely.
So I can see you've given back over time. You've definitely traveled a long way through the Trailblazer career path. And you were just recently awarded the Golden Hoodie. So I guess I'm going to drop back a few questions and bring it back to the Golden Hoodie. But has anything changed for you? Do you think anything professionally, personally in the ecosystem? Do you think the Golden Hoodie changed anything for you?
Well, first and foremost, it got me on your show. So that's good, right? Yeah. No, it did. So, I've talked about it before, but my transition to the ecosystem was admittedly pretty hard. I equate my military transition as probably top two most difficult things I've ever had to do in my life. And I've been in combat. I've had to do some hard things. That was an extended period of extreme stress and difficulty. Because I was coming from, like I mentioned, totally different background, no experience, and I had to learn an entire family of new skills, and I had no idea what to expect of the culture, right? Because military culture, super inclusive, it's super supportive. You're part of a team, and you watch out for each other. They have your back. And so, I'm entering this new ecosystem, at the start, and what I experienced, in the months leading to my transition, really, like we talked about, it defied my expectations and it blew me away. I was overcome by the kindness and generosity that I found in everyone. And so, whether it was like we talked about, whether it was answering a question that I had on the answers community or a quick chat in LinkedIn, everyone was willing to lend a hand. And so when you have that kind of experience, right, it's only natural that you want to sustain it. You want to keep it going. So the best way to do that I have found is give back by mentoring, like we were talking about, the next generation of trailblazers. And I've always tried to do that, right? So we talked about how initially it was ad hoc, and then I applied some structure. So, I went from jumping on a call or doing a LinkedIn message back and forth to joining an online platform and scheduling those one-to-one sessions on a calendar. And now, fast forward, a couple of years, I mentor at scale by hosting a weekly Salesforce office hours. And it was ultimately that office hours that got me recognized with the Golden Hoodie. So to kind of circle back to your questions, it's a long way of answering, but I had to build the story. The Golden Hoodie really has elevated the Trailblazer community's awareness of my office hours program, which means, I've been able to mentor even more Trailblazers, helping them overcome their challenges. And those are the same challenges that I experienced during my career transition. And in addition to that, it's also given me the opportunity to spread the word about Salesforce culture and how we, as you know, Mia, we see ourselves as this extended family, this ohana that takes care of each other and finds joy in helping each other thrive. So it's been a great platform to draw additional attention to the things that I'm most passionate about in this community, which are essentially supporting each other.
Yeah, well, that's awesome that you've been able to gain that extra set of eyes onto your military office hours. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, it's got a long name. So there's actually 3 of them. I didn't originate this idea, and so I don't know if you're aware of Bill Cooler. Bill Cooler is he's a co-founder of Resource Hero, which is an app exchange company. Amazing guy, super talented. He created Military Trailblazer office hours like 3 years ago, right? And I came along and I was ready to scale. I had been doing one-to-one mentoring for a long time. Like a year is a long time, but relatively.
It could be in the Trailblazer ecosystem.
Yeah.
It could be heaps.
So I reached out to Bill. I said, "Hey, Bill, I have an idea. Like, he does technical sessions. He's a whiz, and he'll do an hour, which is every Friday at noon Eastern. And anyone that joins, he will solve their technical challenges, whether it's code or config. And he whips it out, and he'll share the code with them afterwards. It's amazing." I was like, "Hey, Bill, I am not as smart as you, but what I'd like to do is, if you'll let me borrow your brand, I would like to add on an extra session to the week and do professional development, right? So career and branding topics." And he was immensely supportive. He's like, "Yep, that's awesome. Let's do it." And not only did he let me borrow his brand, he helped set me up with his Pardot instance and got me going. And so, yeah, it's called Military Trailblazer Office Hours, and my version is career and branding, and his version is technical. And recently, we brought on a third Trailblazer, Jade Long, and she's going to be doing kind of a potpourri session on Mondays, and I believe it's 5:30 Eastern, where she's going to handle any question you want to bring, ask her, and you'll have a discussion about it. So you've got hers on Mondays, you've got mine on Wednesdays. I have more focused discussion topics, so like I'll have a theme, right? And then you've got Bill's on Fridays, and he does like the technical stuff.
That's amazing. That is so, and also a potpourri of session of topics. That's amazing. I'm going to take that. Still stolen. So no, that's really good. And the structure is awesome to give back. I know that you've obviously found that need when you were walking through your journey. So to be able to be like, let's spin that up. That's what I would have needed when I started. Let's do that and give back. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
So as we're coming to the end of our podcast, I have a fun question for everyone.
Yes.
Just to bring it back home to non-Salesforce related things. But it's if you were an animal, what animal would you be?
So it's funny, like I thought about this for a while, and I was like, I was gonna pick the cliche answer, like I want to be an eagle so I can soar through the heavens. But the more I thought about it, and admittedly, I love being a human, so I think my top pick would be a human. But if I had to choose something else, right, I would probably pick a spider monkey, if I'm being honest. Which seems like an odd choice, but if you think about it, right, so they live in these close knit communities, which helps them find food and protects them from danger. And so I do a fair amount of traveling, and I've seen them both in the jungles and abroad, like in town, and whatever they're doing, like whether it's jumping through the treetops, or when I was in Costa Rica, it was literally sleepy. It was stealing the sleeping guy's backpack on the beach. He was asleep, passed out, and the monkey like reaches up and he like grabs the backpack and he makes off with it. The guy wakes up, he's chasing the monkey down the beach. I was rolling. It was hilarious. But the point of that is that they're always having fun, right? So it's this sense of extended community and fun, and that's really what I'm all about. So I would be a spider monkey.
That's awesome. I really enjoyed that one. That was a good example. I think we'll go with that one. Everyone else, yeah, come on, up your game. What animal are you going to be? But I like the, I wanted to be a human. I didn't think of it like that, but I often...
It's pretty great. Yeah.
So closing out, we have a session of open mic for you, David. And if you wanted to promote, talk about, reiterate, touch on again, anything that you wanted to talk about, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So just one concept and then one kind of shameless promotion. So, if anyone's watching this and they're like, I don't know if this ecosystem is right for me. I don't know if I can do it. It is 100% natural to have imposter syndrome. Everybody has it, right? I had a guy on my show, Iman Magruri, and he's a 15-year solution engineer. He's a machine, right? He is the epitome of a solution engineer. He's been amazingly successful. And during the session, he's like, you know what? I have imposter syndrome all the time, which blew me away because I'm like, well, I have imposter syndrome all the time. So it's normal, right? And I think if you can see it in this light, it's a little healthy if it's kept in balance, right? If you're a little bit nervous about, hey, I'm stepping outside my comfort zone, I don't know if I can do this, that's good. That means you're growing. It's when you're not stepping outside your comfort zone, you're totally comfortable, you're like, oh, I got this. That's when you make mistakes, and that's when you stop learning because you're not forcing yourself into these new areas that you're not necessarily good at to grow, right? So imposter syndrome is normal. Embrace it and move past it, because you can absolutely be successful in this ecosystem. If I can come from nowhere, no background at all, and do decently, so can you. So that's kind of my overarching guidance on, can I do it? Yes, you can. It requires hard work. It requires embracing the community, and it requires passion. And if you've got those things, hey, it's totally doable. For the shameless plug, I was kind of talking about it before. I would invite anyone that is interested in professional development in this space, in the Salesforce ecosystem, to attend my office hours. Don't let the name throw you off. Yes, it is called Military Trailblazer Career Branding Office Hours. No, you do not have to be any way affiliated with the military, right? Everyone's welcome to join, and our topics are applicable to everyone. We do delve into military topics sometimes, but in large part, those topics relate to everyday experiences. Mostly when we talk about military stuff, it's how do I transition? Well, if you're coming from a different industry, you're transitioning, so it relates to you. So attend, right? It's weekly, Wednesdays, 5 to 6 p.m. Average session attendance is like 50 people, which is great because you attend and you exchange LinkedIn profiles back and forth, and you've just met 50 people, right? So it's a great way to not only learn, but also to network. I bring a different co-host on every week. So some weeks it's, hey, let's explore how to be a solution engineer. Others it's how to be the awesomest admin. I try to delve into those different career paths that, if you're new, you're probably wondering, what do I pick? Like, what's the difference between a BA and a consultant? What's the difference between a software engineer and a solution engineer? If you're wondering, hey, come to session. And if you can't make it, right, if you're APAC region, you're like, that's too early, totally fine. I've got a YouTube station, or YouTube channel rather. Just Google David Nava YouTube, and I'm probably the only one. And if you need to, like maybe add a Salesforce onto that, you'll find me.
Yeah.
But there's
in the show notes as well. We'll link everyone to your.
Yes, thank you. There's over 90 videos in there on best practices, exploring different career paths, how to be awesome in this ecosystem. We add 3 new ones every week, and we're more than open to suggestions. So if you're like, hey, you don't have a session on XYZ, I'll go invite someone that's an expert in that and we'll have that session. So come join us. Join Jade's sessions if you have those potpourri questions. If you've got this nagging question that you just can't solve technically, noon, Fridays Eastern, join Bill's session.
Amazing. We rounded it out really well. Definitely, you've got some nuggets of inspiration there. And I think you're someone to really follow on all those social channels. So everyone out there, go start following David Nava on LinkedIn. And I know you're on Twitter as well. And if anyone wanted to reach out to you for help, what is the best way of doing that?
Yeah, I would say attend office hours. Like just show up. And if you can't make it, like, oh, it's the wrong time. Hey, send me a DM in LinkedIn and say, hey, Dave, I can't make your office hours. Here's 3 questions that I have for your next guest. Or here's 3 questions that I have in general. Next time you have someone on that can handle those, bring them up. And I totally will. I'm always looking for new content. Every week I have to find these questions. So if you're giving them to me, I'm going to ask them.
Content creators' favorite thing is other people giving you content. Yeah, that's amazing.
It's the best. Yeah.
It's like it's designed for this.
Yeah.
But that's true. It is our, I guess, goal is to help others in the ecosystem. So if you do have those questions, please pose them. And I'm sure I listen to David's YouTube videos because obviously I'm in Australia, so I haven't tuned into you live, but I did listen to them back, and they're exactly the same experience. I was able to join the community, listen to people, and then connect with them after I ended the YouTube video. So definitely go and do that, guys. But thank you so much for joining us, David. And
thank you.
I'm looking forward to whatever you produce out in the community next. I hope you had a great time.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to meet you and speak. It's been awesome. I love it.
Thank you.